as Bill said, we got to have a little bit of fun this week, some of us did, as we went to the Florida Conference annual gathering, which was great. We had a great time. And a great time was had by everybody there. It was pretty cool. We spent 3 days at the annual gathering, and we were eligible to send 4 delegates. One was myself as the pastor, able to send a youth delegate, which was up to age 24, so that got to be Castor, and 2 more delegates who were represented by Bill and Brandon. We kind of joked about it that even though because it was probably for the first time in a very long time that we've sent all male representatives. And because here, as in most places, we know that women actually run the church, right? And so I want to thank all the women for letting us have kind of a guys' weekend out, so to speak, right? And actually, you know, Bill said something already, but I thought I would kind of go around for a minute to Castor, Brandon, Bill, and maybe ask them if there's anything that, you know, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but ask if there's anything that's kind of came up that was really cool, that you really thought was cool while you were there. Anybody have anything? Castor does.
So, I have something real. I want to tell you something funny first. The funny thing first, we got to go to this cool Mexican restaurant called Senor Frog. And we're going down the menu, and it's like tacos, burritos, burgers, barbecue, mac and cheese, and it's just this. It's like, where are
Alfredo.
we? Fettuccine Alfredo, that was on there. So that was really funny. But now for the real stuff. I got to go to, there was an everyone discussion on planned giving, and then I went to a separate Toolbox for Treasury breakout session. And it was really cool to view that perspective on how we steward money in the church. A lot of times, you know, maybe a church wants to hype up missions. You know, we tend to hype up colors of hunger, gifts of love, but it's just as important to share and tell people about the other things we do with the money, like how much we're spending on worship and ministry, not ministry, just like our worship services on Sunday, because that's important too. And it's just worth sharing with people that even though ministry is very important, you know, it's the work of the church, it's also important to share those other little things because it does matter to people as well.
All right. Thank you, Castor. I knew you would.
I know, I'm sorry I'm long-winded. Senior Frogs was not that big of a deal. It didn't stand out that much, but I thought the funny thing was that when Castor went to the bathroom, someone helped him with washing his hands and with drying his hands. He said that there was a concierge in there, like handing towels. When I went in there, there was 2 inches of urine. So I don't know if we were in the same bathroom. I don't know.
I had the same experience.
I lost a shoe because it got stuck to the floor. I was like, I don't think we were in the same bathroom. But he's quite sure it happened. But I don't know what was in the blue drink he had. Yeah, I will say this has been a long and interesting experience for my family in general, being a part of the United Church of Christ. You know that we are evangelical kids. My wife is a pastor's kid, so we very entrenched in the ways that we came up, and we both worked in like mega church adjacent type churches. So coming to the United Church of Christ, a very different feel. The liturgical setting in the first place is new to us. So me going to this conference, I've been to tons of conferences in the past. This one was very different. I would say for me, a lot of times you come back and you're handed the mic and you're asked to say something and you get real weepy and you're like, but I had a really experience with the Lord. It's very emotionally hyped. This I didn't feel like was an emotional hype. There was just a realness that was more spiritual than any emotional hype. I'm used to like a big band being there and this and that, but you know what? It was just a room full of people as raw as we are in here, experiencing the presence of God in such a real way, not a pushed or forced way. There was no emotional push. There was just like, what are the ideas? And it made me really, really, really happy to be a part not only of this church, but the United Church of Christ at large. We're in a really cool conference that really, really cares. I learned a lot about how the churches are very autonomous. They are all very congregational led. It's not supposed to just be led by clergy. Their focus is, we're the church. This is our thing. This is something we do together. So when we're bickering, we're the leadership bickering too. It just got me very excited. I sat in one class, the one breakout session that was really interesting to me. It was talked literally about, it was called lay leadership led worship. Because I learned that out of 3 in the United States, out of every 3 open churches that need a pastor in the UCC, there's only 1 ordained person to fill. So the big push, I would say even from the main stage, was take care of your lay leaders and lean into lay leadership.
And be a lay leader.
And be a lay leader. Step up in some way. And I'll say this isn't me coming at this church. I think this church kicks butt, and maybe we could do a little bit more. But there's 2 churches, one in Daytona and one in Holly Hill. One of them just fell apart because their lay leadership fell apart. It's gone. Holly Hill's gone. There's no longer a UCC in Holly Hill. And I know I'm close also with Pastor Joe in Daytona, and they're struggling to get people to step up into the roles of lay leadership. If we're at all any way frustrated that our church, we're like, well, this isn't happening and this isn't happening, it means you do it. If you see a hole, it means you fill it. If I see a hole, it means I fill it. I just got very encouraged to see how this church and this denomination is run. There is not a hierarchical system. Pastor Shawn is Pastor Shawn. He is a shepherd. He's not driving the ship. We're driving the ship with him. This is a unified measure, and it just got me so excited because I grew up with top-down Christianity, and climbing that ladder is impossible, and it wears you out. But that's not what this is supposed to be set up to do. We're supposed to be set up to be there, that when someone's getting up to a rung that's too high, we take them down and we climb instead. It was beautiful. It got me really excited. I think I would say the first session I sat in, I was like, oh no, I can't be here. This is not good. It was bad. It was bad. So the second one I went to was really energizing. And the love in that room and seeing that there is also a small turn in recognizing the fact, not just going, I wonder where all the youth are, but like, hey, we need to pay attention to the fact that we're bleeding 30 and under. They're not in the room. I was one of the younger, other than a couple of the younger people that would be considered youth, I was one of the younger people there, and that still drives me nuts. I'm 38. Like, I'm not 28. I'm like, so I think that this push and this drive of this lay leadership, and when we do finally get some younger people in, instead of being like, hey, what can you do to help us? Like, how can you be a part of this thing? How can we all be a part of this thing, move forward as the church body? I don't know. It's beautiful. I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill, I know you said something already during it. Do you want to say anything else?
Yeah, I got one more thing.
Okay.
Well, I got a lot.
Oh, well, yeah.
One of the other things that stuck out that kind of feeds in with what Brandon said was that when somebody new walks into the church, they're looking for signs, even if it's subconscious. You know, what do we have on the walls? Like, are we showing pictures of people of color, or not pictures, but like making it more inclusive? And the thought went into my head, we keep talking about, you know, we say every Sunday, we say no matter who you are, but we don't have that written down anywhere. So I was thinking, you know, put it like right out in the entrance, just so that when we walk, to reaffirm that everybody is welcome. So if there's anything that you think might help make anybody feel comfortable, like a symbol or something, just please let one of us know, and we'll work on making that happen.
Sounds like an art project to me.
It does.
It does sound like an art project, Mark.
It should also be on
Good point. Okay, good, thanks. That's a good thing. But it was focused around symbols and what is somebody who's strange, not strange. We're all strange. I know, really. Yeah, Sammy and me, we're not from this planet, but anyways. Just something that somebody sees that they can relate to. Like, oh yeah, this place really does want me here. So think about that.
Yeah. Thank you. And yes, and we do love our lay leadership here. I really want to point out that, especially when you go around and talk to some other churches, you do find out how good our lay leadership is here. So I think you should all applaud them all here. Because it is so vital, it is so important. I always joke with people, but it's true. Those of you that were in on the interview that when I interviewed, I said, if I do my job right, and if we are doing our stuff right, I will be sitting in my office with my feet up on the table, reading, preparing for the next sermon, or I'll be visiting people. I won't be doing all the little minutia because it'll just be done. Because we'll have disciples here and not just volunteers, but disciples. So these are all great things, but I can't say that it was a vacation. There was a lot of work that was done there. We attended class sessions that were varied in subject matter. Castor said something about the toolbox, for example. Yeah, it was a finance toolbox.
Fun and energetic.
Yes. Yes. All finance meetings are generally fun and energetic. And then the finance people, Al and Tom, are probably going, we were fun. But when you look at numbers, some of us, our eyes go like this, and it's so important to understand those numbers, that's another team that we have here that just, can I say kicks butt from the pulpit? Can I say that? I'm going to say it anyway. And they do. Yeah, we're UCC, we can say that. I was able to attend a discussion about how to approach the dangerous topic of politics in church. And heading into what promises to be an extremely, horribly contentious election cycle, maybe the worst in recent memory, if you can believe that. I was grateful to hear some good advice from experienced clergy and lay people about how they approach it. It was a great reminder that I owe my allegiance to God's kingdom and not to political parties or to candidates or to political philosophies. Another session I attended was a lively discussion of the education policies in Florida and the conference's response. And maybe some of you remember I said I was going to be on the committee that actually wrote the letter that we were going to share. And that letter has been completed, and it was shared with the council last month. And I kind of forgot. I haven't shared it with the congregation yet. I meant to email it out to you guys, and I apologize that I didn't. So I thought maybe I'll read it to you now. I'll just read it to you. This is an open letter that was written by several people. I think they all happen to be clergy, but that was just a coincidence. Lay people are invited to these too. But this is an open letter about education in Florida. An open letter to our Florida neighbors, including the governor, the education commissioner, and members of the Florida State Legislature. The United Church of Christ in Florida has been part of the faith community in Florida since 1884 and part of our nation since its very beginning. Our faith is rooted in Scripture and Jesus' commandment to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, from Luke 10:27. Our commitment to education began with our denominational ancestors who were founders of Harvard College, seminaries, and other institutions of higher learning, including 6 historically black colleges and universities, and more recently, New College. In addition to supporting the institutions of higher learning, we are also invested in supporting our children and youth through public education. It is our love for and our commitment to our children that compels us to write regarding the new education policies being enacted in our state. Again, we follow the words of Jesus, who said, "Let the children alone, let them come to me." The children of heaven belongs to such as these. This is often interpreted as a reminder to value the qualities of children and be open and accepting towards everyone, regardless of their age or status. It also serves to call to nurture a call to nurture and protect the young ones, allowing them to grow and develop freely, as well as an invitation to welcome the most powerless among us. We believe that love of neighbor means supporting the autonomy of one's faith and education, honoring the dignity of all, and promoting inclusion are ways of defining the beloved community. To build a beloved community, we must ensure our children are taught the richness and complexities of our collective past, the good as well as the bad. Teaching children a comprehensive understanding of history will foster empathy, critical thinking, and a deeper sense of unity, and will empower them to recognize injustice and discrimination and work towards a more equitable future. Yet it seems that our new education curricula are focused on making students comfortable rather than challenge them to analyze and evaluate. Further, language expressing slavery as a benefit to African Americans is reckless and harmful, in worst cases leading to acts of violence like what we witnessed in Jacksonville on August 26, 2023. Moreover, we are concerned about the dropping of the AP African American history curriculum in favor of what seems to be a much less comprehensive one, especially PragerU, which purports only one viewpoint. To build a beloved community, one that embraces all its members, we must acknowledge the struggles, triumphs, and contributions of every individual and community that has played a part in shaping our state and nation. A beloved community is not built on obtuseness or the erasure of history. It is built on a strong foundation of knowledge, understanding, and respect for one another. By equipping our children with a holistic view of history, we give them the tools to challenge prejudice and bigotry. We create a generation of leaders who recognize the immense value of embracing diversity and promoting justice. Furthermore, we are concerned that our policies and rhetoric towards LGBTQ plus students, parents, teachers, and faculty feel targeted and less safe. We are concerned that books lifting up diversity and the struggle for justice have been taken off library shelves, sometimes as a response to self-censorship because of the political atmosphere that has been created. We are concerned that the mission of New College has been changed and new leadership, some without educational credentials, hurriedly were put in place. All these actions threaten the building of the beloved community. Just as we are asking you, our educational and political leaders, to remember your responsibilities for the educational policies of our state for all children and to engage with educators, historians, community leaders to design an inclusive framework that truly reflects the complexities of our shared past, we acknowledge our own responsibility in the education of children and youth. We recommit to providing a safe space for children and youth to learn about one another and about the vision for a beloved community. We express our gratitude to our dedicated educators and librarians and commit to supporting them and helping nurture our children and youth. These educational experts care deeply and play a vital role in shaping the future leaders of our society. They inspire, challenge, and open young minds to the wonders of knowledge. But too many of them now feel under attack and are contemplating leaving their profession and even their state. Let us work together to create a beloved community where every child grows up with an understanding and appreciation for the diverse tapestry that has been woven throughout history. In the words of Jesus, let the children come. And this, I am happy to announce that 36 of our churches in the Florida Conference have signed on to endorse, including us. And it's not only been endorsed by at least 36 of those churches the last time I heard, but our conference minister, John Vertigan, made a commitment to have it published on half-page slots, if necessary, in every major newspaper of the state of Florida to show the UCC's solidarity with educators, historians, psychologists, and most especially our students, and our desire to provide complete, non-biased curriculum so that Florida students receive the best education they can. Right?
And he said if they won't take it, he'll pay for it.
Yeah. He said if they will not take it, we will pay for it to be published. If they will not take it on their op-ed page.
I just want to say, I am so happy to hear that. Because the other side is not holding back.
Right.
They're blasting it on their television and TV shows, and
Yep. Mute no longer, because we will engage. We will not engage in political parties and political candidates, but we will engage in issues. We will engage in the government. And this actually reminds me, we also got to discuss the resolutions that were adopted by the National Church at the General Synod earlier this summer, which is the big gathering. It's kind of like the little Florida Conference gathering, except it's all the conferences in the United States gathering. And we got to pray for and announce some of the things that were passed there, some of the resolutions, including one to reduce the use of plastics, one to renounce the Dobbs decision and declare abortion a health care issue, committing to the creation of white supremacy-free zones, another resolution in support of affirmative action use in higher education, and one that was entitled Supporting Public Educators' Academic Freedom and Equity Efforts in Schools. So that was at the national level. And does that sound familiar? It kind of sounds like the letter we just read, right? So we're kind of ahead of the game on that one, right? Another thing that was happening was that the conference was celebrating their 60th anniversary as an entity, as the Florida Conference of the United Church of Christ, created in 1963, which is a lot of fun. They played a lot of music from the 60s, and showed some pictures, did things. Until we got to one particular slide presentation that kind of got to me. And I took a snapshot of it, and Matt's going to put it up here. It is really small, so it's going to be hard to read. I don't know if you're able to zoom in on it any to that fourth and okay, good. He prepared. He knew he was going to ask that. It's a little blurry. But if you look maybe 4 down, these are resolutions that were on the agenda at the Florida Conference, that same meeting, the very first year in 1963 that it was created. If you look about 4 bullets down, it says race. And actually, it's interesting to look at all of them. Communism, disarmament. This was the early 60s, right? This is the beginning of the Cold War, et cetera. But you look at the 4th one down, race, and the 5th one down, current problems of Florida, that has a little sub thing that says, including low expenditures per student in education and interference in academic freedom by the state education board. That was 60 years ago. We have the same resolutions that we had at the very first Florida State Conference meeting. Well, it's a little depressing to look at that. It's one of those moments that really got me down, And you'll also see the next one down, on the relationship of government to freedom and welfare, requesting that churches engage all levels of government respectfully in matters of what we would call social justice. That's why we get involved with faith. If you're interested in faith, learning more about it, come on Saturday next week. It's why we do these little things. We kind of have to stick our neck out a lot, right? That's what we're going to do. Because that resolution was passed, or at least it was on the agenda 60 years ago. We should continue to remain faithful to it. But seeing those same agenda items on race and on interference and academic freedom was really frustrating. And at that point, my heart kind of sunk, what a bummer. Still fighting the same old battles. And all these feelings kind of crept up, things about, anger, sadness, anxiety about the future, a sense of defeat. What kind of future state am I leaving my kiddo? Right? What's the point that we should just give up? And what's the point, It starts feeling really nihilistic. You feel like you're not equipped for a fight like this, for seeking justice, for turning the other cheek, for loving your enemy and all that stuff. It's at those moments that the cross kind of feels a little heavy. And it felt really heavy at that moment, and despair really rules us at moments like that. Then I remembered that I'm a preacher. And I remember that I've been carrying a verse around with me all week from Philippians that we read today. Let me read to you part of it again. It says, "Do not worry about anything, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." And there it was. Prayer. And we saw lots of prayer over the last 3 days. We prayed in song, we prayed in poetry, we prayed in dance. Paul reminds us here to pray, but notice he doesn't say, pray to God and your prayers will be answered. No, he says, don't worry, and pray so that the peace of God will be upon you, that will guard your hearts and your minds. You see, as we drag our crosses over our shoulder with the faint image of Jesus walking right in front of us, we have that very Jesus on our guard. We're not asked to fight for Jesus and to love others and stand up to be vulnerable and stick our necks out in a volatile world without protection. We're watched over continually by Jesus Christ, and that is indeed reason not to worry. But let's not deny that Jesus isn't a bodyguard. We literally stick our necks out sometimes when we ask for justice. We live in these bodies, and we will also experience the sadness and the pain and the grief and physical danger even sometimes. Jesus is not a bodyguard. Jesus is a soul guard. Our souls, our hearts, and our minds are never at risk if we learn to take refuge in Jesus during these struggles of discipleship. And there are struggles. Just look at that agenda from 1963. That's an entire lifetime ago. So we cannot be discouraged. Jesus said, do not let your hearts be troubled. And we won't, because we trust. The struggle continues. That's why we gathered to pray, to worship, and to show each other our strength. You are all there. Every one of you was there. You prayed, and you sang, and you danced, and you heard the poetry, and you ate the body and drank the wine of Jesus Christ with us. Because, as the song said that we sang this morning, we are united in the church of Christ. And just as Paul says in the reading today, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. Keep on doing them, even when it feels pointless, because it is never fruitless to pursue what's right and true and pure and honorable. Trust in that struggle, a trust in the one who calls us to follow Christ on that straight path. Whom shall we trust, O God, but you? For you are a constant, strong, and true. None ever called on you in vain. Give peace, O God, give peace again. We sang that this morning too. And may we live those words. Amen. And now, may we take just a few moments to confess those things to ourselves that we wish we had done and that we wish we had not done